cat's heart begins to glow. Walking down the streets we know, smiles are shining, spirits grow. Mike's the name, hope's the game, lighting up our city's flame. Mike for mayor, hear the cheer, bringing joy year to year. Winnipeg paints future, shining bright, together strong we'll take flight. From the river to the plains, building dreams, breaking chains. Every voice will find a place in this warm and friendly space. Mike for mayor, hear the cheer, bringing joy year to year. Winnipeg paints future, shining bright, together strong we'll take flight. Hand in hand we stand as one, underneath the golden sun. Mike's the hope, Mike's the way, leading Winnipeg to a brighter day. Mike for mayor, let's unite. Winnipeg shining, city light, with every heart and every cheer. Mike's the leader we hold dear. Mike's the leader we hold dear.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Mike Vogiatzakis Show. Great to have everybody with us. Tonight's an important show, one that, not because of politics, but because of direction, accountability, and who's really shaping, the city, the future. What does Winnipeg look like as we move forward? We've got a lot to get to tonight. We're just kind of in the midst of getting our show set up. We've had a little bit of, not technical difficulty, but just getting a few new things. Like the song we just heard was pretty brand new. We didn't get the original version sent to us yet. I thought I'd improvise there and just give them a little taste as we held the phone up to the microphone, but you got a chance to hear that. We'll have the good copy on next week, and I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy that. So we'll also get to who wrote that and who put that together with Mike. I'm your host, Brad Wilder. Tonight's show is an important one, as I said, not because of politics, but because of direction and accountability and who's really shaping the future of this city. Joining me tonight is Mike Vogiatzakis, funeral director, business owner, and a voice many Winnipeggers have come to trust with straight talk and lived experience. Tonight we're going to take a serious look at the World Economic Forum, the Winnipeg metropolitan region, and Winnipeg itself, and ask some simple but maybe even some uncomfortable questions. There's a lot to get to. We're going to talk about how closely does Winnipeg mirror the global frameworks being promoted elsewhere in the world and throughout the country, and is that actually working for the people that live here? The World Economic Forum, not an elected body by any stretch. This is global tyranny, in a sense. Comes with a dash of communism and a bunch of other things. It doesn't answer to voters, though. That's the real issue. And voters, government officials work for us. But because this is an elected body, government officials, they don't feel as though we're important. They're making decisions without us. And our prime minister is one of those individuals. Tonight, this whole World Economic Forum 2030 agenda promotes global ideas on how cities should function, from transit and housing to climate policy to centralized planning, even governance models. And many residents are starting to notice that some of those ideas seem to be showing up right here at home. The transit system redesigned with little regard for daily, reality. Buses taking longer than they should. Buses, getting their way before they should and taking off before passengers realize that they've missed their bus. Infrastructure decisions that slow down emergency response, densification without services to support it. It's just a growing disconnect between City Hall and the people dealing with crime, addiction, rising costs, and public safety concerns. So tonight, we're not here to claim conspiracies. We're here to compare ideas with outcomes. And that brings us to leadership. Leadership is one of the most important parts of all of this. And whether you feel we've had good leadership or not here in Winnipeg, the time is going to come to make a new choice, a different choice. Vote again and see where this is going to take people and where it's going to take the city for that matter. Why are more people in Winnipeg saying they need a new mayor? This city needs a new mayor, one who's not politically connected. Because when leadership becomes too comfortable with insiders, consultants, career politics, accountability really does fade. we're seeing that with our prime minister, who's a global anarchist, and as he presents his globalistic ways to not only the World Economic Forum, but also to Canadians along the way. I'm sure, it's been the hot topic of the week so far, and it's only Wednesday, but the last 2 days in Davos, Switzerland, has created quite the animosity throughout our country. There's been a lot of talk about what Carney's been saying, what Trudeau had to say while he's been there, and all of that matters and comes down to the decisions that are defended instead of corrected. And we've got to talk about that. Citizens are told to be patient even as the city continues to struggle. A mayor's job isn't to manage optics, but it's to fight for the people. Same thing our prime minister is supposed to be doing for us. He thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's really following an agenda that, Canadians just weren't part of developing or being part of. And that's where the real breakdown in communication happens. So to lead off with common sense, courage, that's what this is all about tonight, to say, I'm going to make my own decisions from what we learn, the education that Mike and Brad are about to provide here tonight. And we're going to break this down clearly, respectfully, and honestly. It's all coming up right here next on the Mike Vogiatzakis Show.
At Santa Lucia Pizza, it's all about the sauce. Did you also know, whether dine-in, takeout, or delivery, our menu is sure to please with a variety of options for the whole family. With quality ingredients for pizza, pasta, Greek, and so much more. Cut cooking out of your dinner plans and let Santa Lucia Pizza do all the work. With large portions, superior taste, great service, remarkable quality, and exceptional value, plus fantastic menu options, and our specialty, of course, pizza. Fresh and piping hot to your door. Pizza, pasta, Greek food, Santa Lucia. It's all about the sauce. Order online at santaluciapizza.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Mike Vogiatzakis Show on this Wednesday, January the 21st. Good to have you here, Mike. How are you?
Nice to have you here. Who do we have on the screen?
Well, that's Kathy Tickle.
And why do we have her on the screen?
Well, her and her husband, actually. They've been married for 18 years, Mike. And I thought it would be nice to pull up a couple of pictures of Kathy because, well, she's always jumping in on and being part of the show here. And she actually, did you know this? Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Let's get in here. Uh-oh, we got the right one.
Her upside down. She's a police officer.
She is.
Wow, I always thought that she was a nurse.
No.
Interesting.
Or is she an EMS?
EMS, yeah.
EMS.
Wow. Well, happy anniversary, Kathy and your husband. They look like they're both EMS workers.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That is.
Well, guess what? It's somebody else's. It was somebody else's birthday. He's watched the show since the beginning. Asked the funeral director.
We don't have a picture of him though.
No, but it's Al Bueller.
Al Bueller.
It was Al Bueller's birthday.
Happy birthday, Al.
I'm sure he had lots of alcohol and probably got.
I'm sure.
Very intoxicated. But Al, happy birthday from the Mike Vogiatzakis Show.
That was like Friday.
Brad Wilder.
I think that was Friday or something. That happened.
Yeah, Al, he probably had his shirt off, running around outside in the cold.
I'd like to say hi to some people tonight, but that seems to be messed up. Your internet connection was restored now. Did you hear about this? Maybe I hope we're online. I'm praying we're online tonight. And we can't actually get a hold of anybody. We got to check your phone. So just go ahead.
You keep talking, and I'm gonna.
Well, what I want to ask is, did you hear about the sun? The sun had a big explosion on it just 2 days ago.
No.
And that radiation of this sun has actually now.
Is that conspiracy stuff?
No. This is a true story. I saw it from whatever those guys are called that study the moon and the stars. The guy showed exactly what happened, and all this radiation was coming towards Earth yesterday and today, and it started last night, and that's caused some disruption in all kinds of signals with satellites, telephone connections, power even. It's been quite interesting. What do we got, Mike? Anything
we got no internet service down here.
See, that's the problem.
Here, let me use cellular. But you know what? It shows that there's 72 people watching live. So.
Yeah, I know everything's working on our
end.
end.
It's fine. We're on.
Why can't we see our folks on Restream, though? And
they're all gone. They've disappeared. Tonight is going to be an interesting show. As you know, the big event this week was in Davos, the World Economic Forum. All the leaders the great world leaders there, Trump and Carney and all the people that, it's been number one on the ratings for this whole week. And I got a chance to watch some of Trump's speech last night and some of Carney's speech. There's some people happy with it and some people unhappy with it. And a lot of people are saying, why are we poking the bear?
Well,
and that's our friendly neighbors to the
south
of us. And that's a pretty scary thing.
Did you know that 70% of all trade that Canada does throughout the world, 77% is with Donald Trump in the United States? All right, so that means that if we don't have a relationship with them, and Carney's quite willing to blow that off as a leader of our country, and he's not speaking on behalf of Canadians, he's speaking on behalf of himself and the 2030 Agenda and the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
But that's where it gets really convoluted in a sense that we've got a real battle here now between Canada and the U.S., which has never happened since that war that happened when the U.S. tried to come up and take over Canada. And we pushed them back, we held them off, and we managed to maintain our country and our dignity. But this situation presents a different story because China's now involved. And when China gets involved, China and Trump, while they're cordial to each other, I'm not going to say that they love each other. I'm going to say that there's a love-hate relationship there.
You got Russia involved, and you got all the
right. Iran's involved with those guys.
And you know what? The last thing we need is World War III.
Well, I'm worried that World War III is actually going to happen on Canada's soil, Mike, to be honest with you, just based on the fact that Carney is snugging up to China so much, and we've got Trump basically, or Carney and Trump opposing each other at this moment. This doesn't lead to very good things. And once Trump figures out that Carney's cozying up to Xi Jinping, I think that's where things go south in a real bad way for us Canadians. And, I saw an episode yesterday, Glenn Beck or Michael Knowles, one of them, and they were talking about how their opinion is that Canada could possibly, and I'm saying this very, very skeptically, and I don't have any fact on this, so please don't think that I'm being factual, just by what other broadcasters and my line of work are saying, that Canada has a real potential to look like Ukraine in the future. And that does not sit well with me as a Canadian.
That's pretty scary.
That is scary. And if they did it to Ukraine, what makes you think that they wouldn't do it here? Kiev looked like any city in Canada. It wasn't any different.
Yeah.
They have their ocean. They have their beautiful inner land. And it's a beautiful country. But the reality here is that it's been destroyed. It's been taken over by globalists, and they've caused a lot of damage there.
And that's what this whole show is about today.
Putin's to the north of us, Donald's to the south of us, and we're stuck in the middle here. And China, if they show up at the north and decide to drop in with Carney, we're in a situation where we're really surrounded.
And I think a big part of Canada's protection is the U.S.
I agree.
The
Golden Dome that Don's setting up for us to be part of is something that I think has some potential to really keep everybody in check with North America.
And they have that dome in Israel, and it's a good thing that they have it, and it's saved a lot of people's lives. But tonight's show is all about that. It's all about the World Economic Forum and how we compare that to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And Brad's going to ask some serious questions. Unfortunately, we can't say hi to a lot of people tonight because we can't see you.
I'm still going to try as the show goes on and get it going.
But it's okay. You know what? That's probably on my page, I would figure.
Could be.
And I think that's what the problem is. So if as we're answering questions, maybe go to my page and see if it's there or if is that going to kick us off? I don't know. But let's get into the first question. Is we only have an hour, Brad.
All right, Mike. Question number 1 says, Michael, people hear the term World Economic Forum immediately, and reactions, they range from curiosity to concern. I'm a concern kind of guy. I'm also very curious, too, but I think all the homework and rabbit holes I've gone down has allowed me to figure out what the World Economic Forum is actually about. And for those watching tonight who may not follow those global policy discussions closely, what exactly is the World Economic Forum and why should people in Winnipeg care about it at all? Well, there's some really good reasons. And Mike, you've got the answers. So why would people need to care about the World Economic Forum, the 2030 Agenda, and Winnipeg? How does that all tie together, buddy?
I think that's a fair question, Brad, and it's exactly where conversation needs to start. The World Economic Forum is not a government. It's not elected, and it doesn't answer to voters or for voters. What it does bring together is political leaders, corporations, NGOs, to promote frameworks, ideas about how economies, cities, and societies should function. On paper, a lot of it sounds really good. But in real life, it doesn't work. But here's the issue. Those ideas are theatrical. They're designed in boardrooms and conferences and are lived out on city streets. They're not lived out on city streets here in Canada or in Manitoba. So why should Winnipeggers care? Because when global frameworks are adopted without adapting them to local reality, people feel it immediately. In their commutes and emergency response times, which we're seeing, if you're calling 911 these days and you break a hip or something that's not considered an immediate emergency, you wait, and we've heard it in the news, up to 11 hours for an ambulance. And if you're waiting 11 hours for an ambulance, that's ridiculous. In Canada, something that's never happened before. In housing and in safety and other living costs, Winnipeg isn't New York. It isn't Toronto, and it certainly isn't Davos. We're a cold weather city. It's winter. It's 40 plus below right now. We're spread out. We have unique infrastructure, challenges, economic pressure, and social realities, especially around crime, addiction, and public safety. When leadership starts governing based on models instead of lived experiences, you get policies that look good on paper but fail real-life people. And that's the heart of tonight's conversation. This isn't about fear, it's about fit. Do global ideas serve Winnipeg, or is Winnipeg being forced to serve under ideas that just don't belong here? And that's the big question. So when we look at these ideas, and we're going to talk more about it as we go on, is Winnipeg following the global agenda? And we're going to kind of guide you through this, and I think that you're going to see that Winnipeg is following a global agenda.
Absolutely. And those global ideas versus local reality is what we're going to jump into next, Mike. When people look at documents and those discussions coming out of the World Economic Forum, I guess they often see themes like smart cities and reduced car dependency and densification, which means more people living under tighter space. So whether it's apartment buildings or whether it's fourplexes, that sort of thing, and even climate-driven urban redesign.
We're seeing fourplexes come up in our city where Mayor Gillingham and council have made it almost so easy for people to build a fourplex beside, a multi-million-dollar home.
That's right.
And basically, they're looking into your backyard. When you bought a house that wants privacy, all of a sudden you have 4 neighbors or 6 neighbors or 8 neighbors instead of having 1.
Yeah, and it's going to be an inconvenience for some because, you how much does your property value drop when that happens?
And you're seeing these houses pop up everywhere. Like little tiny fourplexes, they take a property that would have 1 house on it, and they pop 2 of these complexes on there.
So, are they trying to keep it all within the ring road, the perimeter, basically? Is that what they're trying to do? Because if you go outside the perimeter, there's a lot of space out there that could all be utilized to put these kind of complexes up.
But it's not Winnipeg.
It's not Winnipeg. That's right. That's not. It's outside that ring road. So what does that ring road kind of tell you? It tells me that they're going to keep everybody within that perimeter, and the ones inside? Is that like being held captive?
I don't know, but I have a funny feeling
Checkpoint, Charlie?
And it's moved on. We're going to talk more about this, where it's moved on to the outskirts of Winnipeg, the bedroom communities.
Well, that's right. We had actually somebody last night who turned around, a reeve or a mayor, who decided to say, after the town spoke up and held a vote on it, we're not into this anymore. And that's the Winnipeg metropolitan region.
And we're going to get into that, but we'll finish this question off.
Yeah.
And, we got lots to talk about tonight, so this show will be filled up. Again, sorry, we're not getting to your comments.
I'm going to.
Tonight.
I'm going to fix that up as soon as you start talking about this next part.
There we go.
All right, so what's your answer?
So yes, they're very valid. The World Economic Forum promotes cities that are more centralized, more dense, less car dependent, and governed by long-term planning frameworks rather than immediate public demand. Now look at Winnipeg. We've seen this. Major transit redesigns that removed direct routes. They're not even going to hospitals. They're bypassing going to hospitals that they used to do. Road diets and traffic calming that slow movement. We've seen this all around the city where they got these pillars in the middle of the streets that are slowing traffic. And this is part of the agenda that they want you to do. They're not matching with infrastructure or decisions justified as a future would be focused. While present day service is declining, those aren't random. They mirror the global planning trends. The problem isn't thinking long term. The problem is copy and paste. And that becomes a problem. Winnipeg has extreme winters, as we talked about. A spread out population for sure, and a growing crime and addiction problem that's completely out of control. We have emergency response times that are already strained. Global city models don't account for that, but leadership should. And that's the problem. And we're going to talk about, 2 years ago on the 24th of January, when my brother Kyriakis was murdered right here in the city of Winnipeg. And the sad thing about that is Mayor Gillingham today put a post out that he's concerned about what's happening in Minneapolis. Well, I would suggest that he would be concerned about what's happening right here in Winnipeg. We have a city that's completely out of control. We have a mental health issue. We have a drug issue. We have a gang issue. And it's getting worse. And since my brother's murder, there's been many, many poor people that have died, many families that are left grieving, and many families that are dealing with the break-ins and the violence and everything that's going on in the city. And if you ask me, Mayor Gillingham should be concentrating more about what's happening in his city. Let's not worry about what's happening in other cities, especially U.S. cities. Let's worry about what's happening in Winnipeg and how we can make Winnipeg a better place.
Absolutely, and that's part of, the local news these days is that.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Guess what? We
We're
have
back.
people online, and we're going to apologize.
I told you I could fix it.
Brad's a fixer-upper.
I was like, we logged into the wrong account is all we did.
There we go.
So there we go. We get rid of the fluoride in our drinking water. I agree with that, Ted. I'd like to know what else is in our water, Ted. Not just the fluoride. I've been concerned since I moved here. I came from Alberta, so the rocks do a lot of siphoning of the bad and keep the good and
Cleansing.
Yeah, cleansing. That's right.
We could actually,
You can say
before
hi
we
to
get into
somebody.
question number 3, we'll just say hi to some people like Jeff Hoffer, a good friend of mine. Hello, Jeff. How you doing? And Larry, city's moving out to Selkirk, Manitoba now. And it looks like it, doesn't it? I remember when you would drive to Lockport, as a kid, to maybe have a hot dog at Skinner's or go fishing in Lockport. You would drive out there and there was nothing. It was just country. Now as you're driving towards, Selkirk or Lockport, it's house after house after house, and these houses are built and crunched in together. They look like small communities.
I still love River Road, man. The big
River Road
properties.
is the best.
Isn't that?
Dan Ross says, hello. He says, bring some of that back, please. And then Carl Krebs is on the show. He wants to say hi to
Carl's got a good one. He says, it's easy for Gillingham to talk about what's happening in Minneapolis. That's called deflection. And really it is. Start talking about that rather than, what's going on in your own city.
And he has been deflecting. And, a mayor should be reaching out. Like, if I ever become mayor of Winnipeg, you could be assured that I will be so compassionate and caring for the citizens of the city that they come first. Our city comes first all the time, and we make sure that our citizens are safe and our city has what it needs to move on.
Well, you've been doing that for a long time. When you were a DJ back in the DJ business, I got to say that, we had to look out for people too. We had to look out for the people that were partying and dancing that night. It wasn't just security's responsibility at a hall or a club or whatever. It was also our responsibility as DJs to be
And you know what? Something else I just wanted to say, Brad. It's almost like, for those of you who believe in God, it's almost like God set you up in your life. And you kind of, when I was a DJ, I'd be going, what am I doing?
Why am I here?
I'm dealing with all these drunks all the time.
Came down to lived experience.
There's no satisfaction. But then you realize when you move up from being a DJ to a funeral director, the DJ life actually helped you. It helped you be a public speaker. It helped you deal with all kinds of situations, drunks, fights, gangs,
Happy,
violence,
sad.
happy people, sad people. And it really helped you become.
A lot of drunk people.
And then, when I work in funeral service now, I realize that I can communicate
There's
with
none
people.
of that.
I can look around the room, because in the DJ environment, you look around the room and you see everything that's going on.
Well, you're trying to play to them, so you
Right.
have to look and get into their heads a little bit. You
Yeah.
do the same thing in a funeral now, too, because,
And it's funny. And then now I want to move up one more step where you're a mayor of a city. And some people say, well, what experience do you have? Well, you wouldn't believe the experience I
Yeah,
have
that's
with
right.
people.
That's right.
And for 27 years, I've been a funeral director dealing with the worst of the worst, things you would never want to see or hear. I deal with it every single day, everything from suicides to drug overdoses to families dealing with mental illness to anything you could imagine. And that's what makes a person like me so special, because I am compassionate, I'm caring. I've dealt with these situations over and over again. It's not new to me. So dealing with city things, and plus my business experience alone, really helps you. But I also want to talk about transit tonight, which is question number 3 on here.
Yeah, transit's a big part of what's going on. Obviously, they've got a lot of backlash to what's been happening here in Winnipeg. Let's talk about transit specifically, and let's tie in. Again, we're going to tie in a lot tonight with this, because they really are the ones who are creating this 2030 agenda. So the WEF, the World Economic Forum, begins to jump back in here on our own transit changes that are happening in Winnipeg. So reducing private vehicle use and pushing people towards public transit is what we mentioned off the top. In Winnipeg here, many residents feel that new transit system has made life harder, not easier. How does that comparison land for you, Mike? Have you taken the bus lately?
I think this is one of the clearest examples, actually, Brad.
Good gaslighting.
In theory,
the answer is no, and it's okay. You don't have to say you took the bus. The
I've-
real important part is that you've had conversations about all
I've got to
this.
be honest with you. I have taken the bus, and I do take the bus. And, sometimes when I go to Winnipeg Jets games, or, I want to go somewhere and I don't want to take my car, hop on the bus. And hopping on the bus isn't so bad.
No, it's not. It'll get you there quick.
You mind your own business. You sit on the bus. Maybe you look at your phone, read a story, read a book, whatever it is. Bus life isn't bad life. And some people, don't have the luxury of owning a car. Of course, being a funeral director, I'm in a car way more than I am on the bus. But in theory, reducing car use sounds great. In reality, Winnipeg is not built like European cities. People rely on vehicles because routes are long, temperatures are extreme, work schedules are usually 9 to 5, 9 to 4. Safety concerns are real. When transit changes add transfers, longer walks, and longer wait times, people don't feel served. They feel ignored.
Hey, thanks, Al. I'm in. Mikey, read that. Read
What
read
does
that
he
out
say
loud.
there? Right. Yeah, Brad, for deputy mayor. Well, look at that.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah.
I could be Michael J. Fox for you.
Heather
You'll be
says,
short and I'll be tall.
I am short. Heather says, don't trust going into the transit system. I don't. It's dangerous. And here's the dangerous part. When traffic is slowed and routes are less directed, emergency response vehicles suffers. And I was in a line the other day in a funeral procession, and an ambulance hit its siren quite a ways back, and traffic was so congested that that ambulance couldn't move. Neither could traffic. Where do you go? And this is a perfect example of slowing down traffic. And if you're driving around the city these days, you'll realize that traffic is moving real slow.
Calming curbs have been installed calming curbs, and those calming curbs are meant to slow you down making a turn at the corner. So that slows down everything, guys, everything.
Yeah. And this isn't ideology anymore. This is about public safety. And it's a real serious thing that's happening. And you see the buses, what they're doing. With the buses, they're slowing down everything. They're making people walk longer. They're making you work harder. And, a lot of people have quit their jobs. A lot of people have been fired. A lot of people can't get to, daycare, or they can't get to their jobs on time. And finally, they give up.
Yep.
So why would they take a bus system that works, that's been working for years, to make it more convenient for people? So, all the areas that are the sub areas of Winnipeg now, why would they just add bus routes to that to make it more convenient for those people to come in and change the bus? And this is what the global system talks about. It's something that was drawn out in a boardroom. It wasn't somebody that lived in Winnipeg. It wasn't somebody that knows Winnipeg.
Mike,
It's
part of this brilliant plan that you see on screen here beside you, which is the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region's 2030 agenda, all structured and guided by the 2030 agenda by Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum.
So what we're talking about, of course, is comparing what Klaus Schwab is talking about, what all the world leaders are talking about, and how they want to change small cities, which we're going to get into, also talking about 15-minute cities. And this isn't conspiracy. They're live on national TV for the last couple of days.
Absolutely. There's lots of criticism. There's governance and accountability, and some of that stuff needs to be handled here as well, Mike. And that's the important part of all of this, because without the right leadership, as we started to show off with, it's not going to get done. It's not going to be handled properly. And I think we're seeing that with the transit system. I'm not saying that the transit leaders at the city of Winnipeg transit system are making these mistakes. I think that paperwork's been handed down. They've been given their instructions or marching orders, and now they're just executing.
Consultation fees. They keep talking about that. They keep going to other cities and paying people millions of dollars.
Sure, that's consultants, institutions. It's not direct public input, and that's where you're starting. As somebody who wants to run for mayor, that's what you're getting into. You're starting to get the feedback from the locals, and when the locals speak, that's who you should be there for. And unfortunately, Gillingham and his crew are all about the 2030 agenda and making sure that this gets pulled off.
And Randy says something. Don't forget about the seniors, people with disabilities that are suffering, people with young children. I know a family that goes and gets their groceries, and they have to take a bus because they don't have a vehicle. They have 2 little kids. Mom and dad, they hop on the bus, go get their groceries, and now they have to walk 2 blocks to catch the bus. 2 blocks with groceries to get back on the bus.
For a family of 4. That's insane.
This is inconvenience. And sure, the World Economic Forum is touching Winnipeg and cities right across Canada, and the citizens don't realize it, and they need to. And I can assure you one thing.
So people are feeling it in the city, yeah?
Absolutely.
Already, just by the transit change.
People feel decisions are already made before consultation begins. You hear the phrase like this, best practices. They say that all the time. Evidence-based. This is the global units that are talking to us, aligned with global standards. But when residents speak up and say, this isn't working, they're not brushed aside. That's not leadership.
That's right.
That's management without accountability. A city should be led by the people who live in it, not institutions or consultants or political networks.
Or the guys on the screen there.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. And when you have somebody who's politically connected, they need to answer those political parties.
Are you politically connected, Mike?
100% not. Will never be. I'm independent, and I think if you ever want a mayor that's going to make this city work, it needs to be a mayor who's not politically connected in any shape, form, or way, not connected to the elite, not connected to anyone that makes decisions in the city. And that's...
I got this envelope full of money. I wanted to know, can I buy you right now?
How much cash is in there? No,
probably a couple.
You know
bucks.
what? You couldn't buy me. You couldn't buy me if you tried. I'm not for sale. I'll never be for sale. And I have morals, and I believe that those morals will be passed on to the people, and that's responsibility and accountability.
I thought the deputy mayor was in charge of being the pimp. Damn. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Okay, I'll have to get a real job description.
What we need to do, and if I ever become mayor of the city, be assured, hopefully we have a bunch of councillors that are on board, but I will put the transit system back to where it was and make those additions that they need to make transit work for everyone. Bottom line is, people who take transit need to take transit. It needs to be reliable. It needs to work for those people who need transit now.
I can't agree more. We talk about political, we talk about accountability, we talk about transparency, we talk about leadership. But Mike, when you question those items with the individuals in charge, that's, I guess, where we start to talk about why non-politically connected mayoral or mayor is important, because that's something I think that people can kind of get caught up in. You start to play along with the system. You start to get in there, and it starts to work you instead of you working it. Do you see that happening for you?
No, I'm pushed around. I'm fun. I'm a good guy to be around, but I'm really firm when it comes to making decisions and the right decisions. And I'm not one who's going to be pushed around. I'm not one who's going to be bullied. I'm not one who's going to be tied down with bureaucrats that answer to other people. We are going to answer to the citizens of Winnipeg because political connections protect systems, not people. That's the bottom line. When you're connected to a party, pipelines, consultants, circles, and inside networks, it becomes harder to admit failure.
Sure. Now, wait. Why do you believe Winnipeg needs a new mayor? Why do you think the old mayor is, outdated? And because he is politically correct, and you're not connected, connected, you're not going to be. Why do you believe that Winnipeg's mayor is needing to be not politically connected?
Connected?
Yeah, connected.
I think instead of fixing problems, leaders defend decisions. And when you're connected to a party, you need to justify what you're doing. Instead of listening, they justify. Instead of acting, I think they just delay. A mayor who isn't politically connected has nothing to protect, except for himself and the city. They could say, this isn't working, we're not changing it. What about accountability? What does that look like? And that's a big thing, is being a mayor who's accountable to the citizens of the... I don't care what the Progressive Conservative Party says. I don't care what the Liberal Party says, the NDP Party. I care what the citizens of Winnipeg say, what they need, how we need to do it, how we need to make Winnipeg a safer city for your children, your grandchildren, the elderly, and actually have a future for the city. We need a mayor with a vision. And I put a post out this year about Mayor Juba. He was a mayor who had a vision for the city and nobody would listen. His vision included having a monorail system. And if we would have did that way back then, we wouldn't be dealing with transit buses.
Sure.
We'd be dealing with a state-of-the-art city. And I think state-of-the-art keeps people here. Something new, something modern, something that gets the city excited.
Let me just ask you something. Whether it's in the air or on the ground, Winnipeg already has too many damn trains, pal.
Yeah.
There's
Listen,
too many
I went
tracks
to,
everywhere.
I went to,
Can you deal with CN first and get the CN yard to move its tracks a different direction
we're
so
gonna
that we can get them out of the city? And
we're going to try and deal with everything.
imagine if we had a light rail on the CN tracks that are running through the city
And you know what?
already.
Hey, you can't talk about that right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said imagine.
But there's lots we could do in the
I had
city
a
because
dream.
we have infrastructure here that's been here for a long time, and we can make that infrastructure work for Winnipeg. What you're going to get from me, a guy like me, is a lot of love.
I thought you were going up in the air with this whole project.
I went to Edmonton. I've been to Toronto, Edmonton, and a
Vegas?
bunch of cities.
You've seen the Vegas
And what I'm doing
tram?
is checking their infrastructure. When I was in Edmonton last, they're building their second part of their monorail system.
Yeah.
And it's pretty incredible.
Is it up?
Traffic is moving, everything's moving, and in the middle of everything, they're building up, these large infrastructure posts
Yeah.
that create another
It's
another
going
part.
above the city, not
the
under
city.
the city, which
And-
is different from Calgary, right?
and you look at,
Calgary's
yeah.
is all on the ground.
Yeah, well, in Winnipeg, we don't
You
really have on the ground
You
really
go to
either.
Vegas, though, and look at how that tram runs through Vegas. It's pretty cool. It's like a little snake that
It's
zips
fast,
around.
it's efficient. Look, Winnipeg is going to spend another $47 million, I think it is.
Buses.
Electric buses.
At minus 50.
And we
Good luck with
and
that.
we know these electric buses are not working. They're not working all across Canada.
10
But-
days of minus 50, everybody stays home because the buses don't work.
And you know what? I talked to another guy in Toronto, who's a friend of mine, who works in the station for the Toronto bus lines, and he said to me, every bus Toronto has bought is sitting in storage, not being able to use, and when it's time to repair, expensive. And in wintertime, those buses last 1.5.
Well, you've seen those
hours.
batteries explode, and you've seen what happens when they go bad.
And you kind of
So-
wonder what would happen if one of those batteries exploded with a bus full of people. If a bus was to get into an accident.
The electronics don't open the doors, and you're stuck on there, and you burn to death. I mean, it's crazy what can happen these days with these electric vehicles, and we've seen them all over the highways. We've seen them with Teslas. We've seen them with multiple vehicles.
It's happening everywhere.
So,
Let's talk about global agendas.
okay, so with regards to global agendas, Mike, a lot of viewers are going to ask a fair question, and Winnipeg isn't the global financial hub. However, Winnipeg is a part of the whole plan since the creation of North America. I mean, Winnipeg has a lot of history to it, a lot of back experience lived. One of the oldest cities next to Montreal and Toronto and, New York.
That's right.
Everybody that kind of got off the boat in New York ended up coming up to Toronto, and some went east from there to Montreal or Ottawa. Some went west to Winnipeg. And that's how this country was formed. But people don't look at Winnipeg as a global financial hub. It's not London or New York, is it, Mike?
Far from it.
So influenced by ideas promoted by organizations like the World Economic Forum, because it's so far away, and it's such a different experience in Davos from what Winnipeg is.
Yeah, you look at Winnipeg and you look at Davos. We're talking about two different parts of the world.
Well,
And-
30-degree temperature
And
change.
we have World Economic Forum people who are not elected officials. It blows me away, actually, how all these world leaders go there and are answering to the World Economic Forum. Why?
You say it's not sinister, but it is.
But that's not
It
the right
is.
question.
It is.
That's the right question, and the answer isn't sinister.
Yes,
but
it is. A
it's
little bit.
concerning. It's
A little
concerning. Cities don't follow global agendas
No,
because
really,
they're
I
forced
just
to.
put it up on the screen there. I'm not making any proof
They
here.
follow them because that's where the money and recognition comes from. Professionals approve what the flow is often. Global frameworks come with grants, of course, right? Funding eligibility, federal and provincial alignments, consult-driven planning and models. So basically what it is, it's money in your pocket if you do what they tell you to do. When city leaders want to look progressive, responsible, or future-focused, they often adopt languages and policies that align with global standards, even if those standards don't fit local needs. And so it's not about control, it's about career incentives and institution comfort. And that's scary. And that's where the people get left behind. Absolutely. And we can't leave the people behind. And that's what happens when you follow global agendas and you don't follow what your city needs, what you actually live with every day, how your kids live in the streets, how the seniors live, what affects daily lives, hospital wait times, 20 hours in some cases, the cost of food. And, part of the plan too is to get food to be so expensive that you can't afford it. And we're seeing that right now, right here in Winnipeg, where you go to the grocery store, and I went there recently, and I walked out with a bag that cost me $250. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I buy? And then I'm like, geez, Sharon must hate me.
So funding, incentives, all that matters, Mike, and it comes down to a whole bunch of things when you talk about funding and money and all that nonsense. But the reality is you got to spend the money properly, don't you, Mike? And you got to make sure that, you're saying that optics can sometimes matter more than outcome, but the reality is that optics matter too just as much as outcome, and you've got to get there through doing the right things, and that means not only finding the right supplies and materials, but getting the right prices locked into place, and then allocating the right talent to be able to put that into place and get it up and structured. But sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes you can get really caught up in the system and say, 47 million on buses, electric ones, is okay because, it's the right thing to do and everybody's telling me that, so let's just go with it. No homework, no accountability.
Again, it's consulting fees.
Research.
So people say all the time, and I hear this over and over again, where are you going to get the money from? Well, the money's already there. The money is already there. They're just spending it foolishly. Winnipeg has a spending problem.
How do you think we said $20 billion to Ukraine?
And they have a consulting problem. Instead of consulting people that live here in Manitoba and Winnipeg, they go to other places across the world, including the States, and they pay people millions of dollars, and sometimes they pay it twice. Portage-Maine is a perfect example. They paid millions of dollars to consulting fees all around the world, and they told them, don't open up Portage-Maine. And what did they do? They paid all these fees. They were told not to open it, but they did anyways. So, yes, that's not unique to Winnipeg. When funding depends on meeting certain criteria, climate targets such as transit models really affect the city. Cities start designing policy around what qualifies, not what works. So what I'm saying is, if you qualify for the money, they try to make it work, even though it doesn't work for the city. So we're talking, again, it's about the almighty dollar. And that's scary when a mayor or a prime minister or a premier doesn't look at the citizens, but looks at the money that he's going to get because he's following the agenda. That creates a dangerous disconnect, in my opinion. If a policy fails but checks the right boxes, it survives. Does that make any sense to you? If policy fails and checks the right boxes, it survives. If a resident complains but doesn't fit the model, they're just ignored. And we see that now with the bus system. It doesn't fit the model. People are complaining, and there's a site that they have.
Your opinion doesn't matter.
Your opinion doesn't matter. Leadership should work for people all around in the city. Outcomes first, people first, in my opinion, then funding.
That's right.
And that's how it should work. If it doesn't work for your city, then we don't need the funding for it.
Voices matter, and global language, should be thrown out the door because it really doesn't reflect anything local at all in that situation. But Mike, many residents say they don't recognize the language City Hall uses anymore, like frameworks, alignment, long-term transformation, stakeholders. Those
somebody
are words.
Somebody holding a stake?
Yeah, right. Somebody's eating a piece of beef. But the reality here is that that's the accountability and the transparency that people are looking for. When the mayor can't answer those kinds of questions, it really makes the mayor look bad. And I think that's part of what Gillingham has had to obfuscate from along the way over his term. And he'll do it again next term if you reelect him again. But, you're going to stand up and you're not going to be that guy, are you? I know that you're more vocal in that. And I think that's where the voice comes in. And then you got the long-term, just being, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to work this. We're going to make this difference, and we're going to get it done. And that determination, that level of effort, is something that other mayors, they talk big when they're going for the election. I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this and that and the other. But the reality is, Mike isn't posturing. Mike is just being Mike. And Mike, when it's time to go like this, and that's not throwing punches. That's just being like a rock. Tough, hard, squeeze your fist. I got this. I'm going to make this happen. That's what that's about.
And you want to give faith to the city. You want to bring love back to the city.
That's right.
You want to bring care and compassion back to the city. And you want these young people that are our future generation to feel comfortable in the city.
A mayor that loves the city loves the mayor. True story.
True story. And I think what we're going to see in this election is probably a lot of people running for mayor. I think what we're going to see is people who are very politically connected trying to get in there and change the agenda. Maybe more people to run, the better chance Scott Gillingham has to win again.
One of the things that I've had the chance to watch over the past 5 years is Lori Lightfoot, the mayor out of the States.
Yeah.
Just a wingnut. And what she did was she pretended like she cared about the city and the people, but the reality was she didn't, and that led to the people not caring about her either anymore. And that's, I think, a situation that a lot of mayors fall into. Do you find yourself thinking in that way at all?
No,
I didn't get it done. When you get stopped or you lose time after time after time, when you think you're going to go in there and be a winner, is that going to stop you? Is that going to deter you? Is that going to break you down and make you go cry in the corner and take a time out?
The things that I've been through in my life have been, a doorstep of experience. And I don't break easy, and I don't give in easy. I have integrity, and I'm going to keep my integrity. And I'll tell you one thing that I want to do is leave a footprint on the city that's going to last forever. Do good. You can have all the money in the world. You can't take it with you. It's what you leave behind that matters. And I want to leave behind a city that people are proud of. I want to leave behind a legacy of doing the right thing. I don't want to be known as the guy that was corrupt, a guy who took money out of people's pockets to move ahead and leave the people behind. See, when leadership stops speaking and playing language, trust erodes, in my opinion. People don't want to hear about transformative mobility strategies. They want to know, can I walk to work on time? Will an ambulance arrive quickly? Or will my loved one die waiting? Is my neighborhood safe? And a lot of people are asking that question now. Is my neighborhood safe? And we need to be able to say yes. Can Scott Gillingham say your neighborhood is safe right now? Absolutely not. The people who've worked so hard to build this province, this city, are afraid to walk alone at night. The seniors stay in their houses, in their own little prisons. People are also asking, can I afford to live here anymore? Global frameworks speak in obstructions, really. And cities must speak in real life consequences. We need to talk about what's happening here, not what's happening somewhere else. Scott Gillingham was talking today about what's happening in Minneapolis.
Right.
Why not worry about your own city? When leadership adopts global language, it often loses local connection. And that's a true thing. If you're not connected to your communities, to your city, there's going to be serious problems.
That's correct. You bet. So then we get into metropolitan planning versus centralization, Mike, and that's something that, is also has a big time effect on the city. But the Winnipeg metropolitan region is just happens to be one of those kind of organizations, right? Where we're talking about planning, centralization, and not, having that communication with the locals. And that's where it breaks down. They think they're doing things right for the people, but it's a globalist tyranny in a sense that they don't really want to hear from anybody. They just want to tell you what's what and what's going to happen and how it's going to go down. And we've got the money somehow, but that didn't come from a local perspective either. That came from a global structuring of funds. And that payout has, again, provided these individuals with a chance to build this global 2030 agenda. Let me just show you this, Mike, because I pulled this up for us to take a quick look at. Here on the screen with you are the Metropolitan Region Board, which consists of the following membership. Chair is Michael Moore. He was previously the head of the Manitoba Home Builders Association, so he's got a conflict of interest right there alone.
You think?
We've got another member at large, Chief Gordon Blue Sky, member at large Lauren Peltier, Director Janice Lukes, Deputy Acting Mayor of the City of Winnipeg, which, interesting. I liked what you said earlier, Al. Director Myron Dick, he was the mayor of the town of Niverville. We have Director Sandra Smith, mayor of the town of Stonewall. We have Director Krista Van Mitchell, the Reeve of the RM of Cartier. We've got the Director Carla Devlin, mayor of RM of East St. Paul. Director Jim Robson of the RM of Headingley and mayor. Director Shane Peltier, deputy mayor of RM of Richaud. We've got the Director J. Wesley Taplin, who I went to school with way back when, Reeve of the RM of Rockwood. Director Ken Mulligan, Reeve of the RM of Rosser. Director Patrick Thieren, mayor of RM of Springfield. Now, I'm going to stop there for just a second because it was actually Springfield last night that held a vote.
That's right.
And made a decision. The mayor, Mr. What was his name again? It says Patrick Thieren. He decided that he was going to go for it. Hand up, I'm in. I'm going to do that. I'm, oh, yeah, you betcha. But everybody else in the room went, not a chance. And he lost. And now they are no longer part of this 2030 agenda.
And how many cities, how many rural areas have dropped out?
Well, I got to be honest with you. That's where it gets dicey and questionable. Some have said that they're in the process. Some have said that they have already. And some are still working on getting local members within their community fired up to say no to this.
I think what people need to realize is that we, the people, have the power of our voice,
always.
The power of doing the right thing, and the power of standing up. You have a voice, and I would strongly suggest that you use your voice right now, today, during the next election. Don't be pushed around by 22 candidates that are going to try to sway. Here's what political parties do, and you know this, Brad.
Yeah.
So they know somebody's going to maybe win the election, so they'll throw candidates in there to steal votes.
100%.
Random people to steal votes. In some cases, I heard that they're going to have a guy named Mike running.
Yeah, split the vote.
They're going to have a guy named Mike running. So people get confused. Mike Vogiatzakis, Mike, I don't remember which Mike it is. So
that's why we're here early.
Yeah, they play a lot of games. And, regional planning isn't bad unless it's a centralized power without accountability.
Correct.
And global models often push larger governance structures because they're easier to manage from the top down, of course, right? But when decision-making moves farther away from neighborhoods, residents lose their voice. And this is what I'm talking about. If you lose your voice, we lose the battle. You have a voice, use it.
It's called diluting accountability.
Yeah, and then problems become reports. Complaints become data points, and that's where it is. And urgency disappears. And we don't want urgency to disappear. We need to keep the pressure on. Local leadership should desensitize power, not bury it. And that's a big thing. Push power away that doesn't belong in our city.
What's the biggest risk if Winnipeg continues down this path, Mike?
I think if Winnipeg continues down this path, the risk isn't ideology. The risk is detachment, being detached from reality. When leadership becomes more accountable and framework than families, cities fail quietly. And that's what's happening right now. The city is failing quietly. And, you drive downtown Portage in Maine or you head onto Main Street from Portage, and even a city like Winnipeg that should be booming, you drive down Portage and all you see is for lease signs, for sale, broken windows, taped up windows, and then you get onto
high rises
Main Street.
That are empty.
Yeah, you get down Main Street, and what happens? It looks like a frickin' war zone.
It goes from ghost town to war zone. Same thing in Calgary, same thing in Vancouver, same thing in Edmonton, same thing in every city across this country, and that's part of the leadership needs to have more accountable ways.
Yeah, it needs more accountable framework. And that's what we need to do to change things. And let's talk about the crime issues and response times that have increased. Public trust is collapsing. And that's the bottom line. public trust is collapsing. It's collapsing through the bus system. It's collapsing through 911. You phone 911, you have an emergency, somebody's having a heart attack, and you get an answering machine. How ridiculous is that? You're phoning 911, the most important number that you can have on your phone, because your dad or your brother or your mom just had a heart attack or a stroke and you need help.
I'm just going to press 1 and leave a message.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you dial 911 now, more than likely you're going to get an answer machine. And I want you to know that I have a plan. I have a plan to fix our emergency response from police, fire, and paramedics. And the plan is going to be an incredible plan. It's going to work, and it's going to speed up, call times when somebody breaks a hip or when somebody breaks a wrist and somebody needs care there right now.
Look, I want to ask you something now, because this is an important one that I think people need to realize. A lot of leaders make mistakes. Things can happen. Things can change. Situations can go upside down real fast. Red tape can be thrown at you, and you've got to get around it. Mike, when it really comes down to it, what happens when Mike Vogiatzakis, as city mayor, for example, makes mistakes? How do you deal with something like that? How will you approach that? And will you be upfront, trustworthy, accountable, and transparent?
One thing I can say to you, Ed, and by the time leaders make mistakes and they admit to the mistake, people have already paid the price. So here's what happens. You get a mayor like myself who's going to care, who's going to be there for you, and if there's a problem, I'm going to fix it. I'm not going to push it aside. As a matter of fact, one thing that I plan on doing is having an open door policy once a month, where citizens can come in and talk with the mayor. Come and have a coffee, spend 15 minutes with me, and tell me what your issue is. And I'm not going to put it on the back burner. I'm going to make sure it gets into the right hands, and we're going to deal with it. There's a lot of things I don't like in the city. I don't like 311. I don't like a lot of things that push citizens aside. And that's another thing that deflects. You phone 311, and the 48-hour rule of the hockey coach?
Yeah.
Well, they're using that at 311. So you're upset, you call 311 because you have an issue, and they say somebody will call you back. Well, nobody calls you back. And if they do,
within
it's
48
2
hours.
days later or whatever. By then, you've already calmed down, and the issue isn't so important to you.
For some, it's not important. For others, it definitely can still be. I mean, you got pipe leaking in your front yard, and it's a water main break. You want to get through to somebody now, and you can't wait 2 more days. Otherwise, you end up like Main Street.
You need to bring back.
under.
You need to bring back hope to the city of Winnipeg. I've talked with so many people that are young. I talk with elderly people every single day. I talk with the people in between. The children burying their mom and dads, and they're saying, how unfair has this city been to our elderly population, the people that built the city? And a perfect example is you go, a lot of the elderly folks like my mom and maybe your mom and dad don't use cell phones. So you go downtown, you want to park, and you can't plug a meter anymore. And if you don't know how to use a cellular phone and pay for, that parking online, you're going to get a ticket. And I think it's just wrong that they push all those older folks aside, and they're pushing the younger people aside, and they're making it hard for them. And then the big question is, what happens if Winnipeg becomes and uses that 15-minute city model?
Well, Mike, that's where a lot of people are hearing the term 15-minute city, and more are obviously hearing it. So it's a good thing that they're hearing it and starting to understand it. We've known about it for quite some time. An idea that's promoted in global planning and it's in circles, and it includes discussions, obviously, doesn't it? And it's connected to the World Economic Forum. Supporters say it's about convenience and sustainability. Critics worry about control and restriction. I know that's what I worry about, because I'm not interested in being held captive by anybody. Do whatever it takes to get out of that, of course. And then, where do you stand, especially when it relates to Winnipeg and the metropolitan region? Because they're making some pretty bold moves, and the next mayor in is going to have to pick up some of that and possibly have to run with it because of just what's already been implemented by this mayor and this council.
So there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to be made if I become mayor. There's ridiculous things that are going on, and we haven't talked about this yet, but it's part of the model of 15-minute cities and the World Economic Forum. And that's all these bike lanes that they've put in the middle of nowhere that are slowing down traffic, that are causing confusion to people, and they're cleaning the bike lanes before they clean the sidewalks.
Yep.
How unfair is that for an elderly person or disabled person or people carrying young children to catch a bus or walk to work and the streets aren't plowed. But the bike path is. And how many people use bike paths in the middle of winter? I want to be clear on something, and I want you to listen to this. And I'm going to be very calm when I say this. I'm not on board with 15-minute cities. I'm not on board with that model. If I become mayor, 15-minute cities will not be a thing in Winnipeg. Not because I oppose convenience or community, but because Winnipeg is not built for restriction-based planning. The 15-minute city concept works in large areas, but not in dense, temperate, transit-heavy cities. That's where it works, where there's transit-heavy cities. Winnipeg is not one of those cities. Winnipeg is none of these things. We have extreme winter weather, like today, a spread-out population, people who rely on vehicles for work, family and safety, seniors and vulnerable residents who cannot be boxed into zones. When planning starts from the idea of limiting movement instead of supporting mobility, it crosses a fine line, in my opinion. Cities should enable freedom, not manage behavior. And if I become mayor of the city, I'm not going to manage people's behavior. I'm not going to manage movements. We need to be able to move in our city. That's why it's Winnipeg. We love our bedroom communities, St. Andrews, Selkirk, all the areas that are around Winnipeg. Together we form Manitoba, a community that we love, and we're all one.
Yeah.
And we all, I heard things where people are saying, "Oh, you're planning," the rumors are starting already. You're planning on putting what do you call it when you pay a fee to come across?
A toll.
Toll. People are saying, "Oh, you're going to put tolls up."
Toll bridges.
I have no plan on doing that.
That's a 2030 agenda that has plans to do stuff like that.
Correct. The 2030 agenda has plans to put tolls up so you can't leave your area, and if you do cross into one of the outskirts of the
next
city,
zone, yeah.
So that's not going to happen on my watch. So if you want a mayor,
those will be federal things that you'll have to fill out. Those will be forms that you'll have to get. Those will be paperwork that you get done, and then at the end of it all, you get your little pass, and you'll be able to go from one place to the other and pass through that checkpoint.
And you know what? Unfortunately, we're gonna get through all these questions because we have
no, we're not.
5
tonight.
more,
no,
and
we're already there.
We're already there, and people are already saying goodnight. And we will come back to this because we got some important things. But one thing I want to talk about is we talked about the regional plan.
Yeah.
And one thing we forgot to mention is who sat on that board?
Scott Gillingham.
Scott Gillingham, the mayor of Winnipeg, sat on the board of the metropolitan region.
As the mayor of Winnipeg.
As the mayor of Winnipeg, and what business does a mayor have sitting?
Again, big conflict of interest.
Big conflict of interest, if you ask me. So we hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Please do me a favor. Like, share, and follow the show.
Wait, that's exactly what Klaus is doing. 52 cabinet ministers penetrated at from the World Economic Forum here in our government. That's the liberal side of things. And there's also some conservatives that have been there too. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat it. Both sides, left wing, right wing, same damn bird, everybody. Same damn bird. Say goodnight, Mike.
What I would say is just open your eyes, educate yourself, know the difference. And for Winnipeg, when election comes around in October of this year, make the right choice. Don't be fooled. Don't be misguided, because if you do, you're going to pay the price. I can tell you from my heart that I will be a true leader. I will show you love, care, and compassion, and I will be honest up front. And
he wouldn't take my $5.
So we want to just say thank you for joining us on another edition of the Mike Vogiatzakis Show. Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you and your families. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Mike.
Brad.
White skies, new rise, here we go. Winnipeg Cat's heart begins to glow. Walking down the streets we know, smiles are shining, spirits grow. Mike's the name, hope's the game, lighting up our city's flame. Mike for mayor, hear the cheer, bringing joy year to year. Winnipeg's future shining bright, together strong we'll take flight. From the river to the plains, building dreams, breaking chains. Every voice will find a place in this warm and friendly space. Mike for mayor, hear the cheer, bringing joy year to year. Winnipeg's future shining bright, together strong we'll take flight. Hand in hand we stand to a brighter day. Mike for mayor, let's unite. Winnipeg shining, city light. With every heart and every cheer. Mike's the leader we hold dear. Mike's the leader we hold dear.